From the gyms around Michiana, this is 16 Sports Extra.
Welcome into 16 Sports Extra. I'm Neill. That's Austin Hough from the South Bend Tribune.
2 weeks in a row.
I know, 2 weeks in a row.
2 times in 5 days.
We're getting back into it.
My gosh, we're diving back in.
Exactly. Playoff time for high school basketball around here as the girls sectionals in Indiana are getting started this week. We talked about that last week. We'll definitely talk about that
we'll
more.
We'll recap our hot takes of last week later in the show.
Exactly. Kind of give maybe some like dark horses, some people who we think should the favorites and things like that. But first, I think we got to start with some boys basketball, Austin.
Yeah.
We had a pretty impactful past couple of days.
Yes.
Where do you want to start right now?
Let's just start with the NIC. The game that I was at on Friday night was Penn and South Bend Adams, and you were there for a little bit too. You got your 3 buckets and you got out of there. So
couple more buckets.
That's
we'll
how
see
TV
that.
does. I know. But they picked up. I thought this was an impressive win for Penn in the sense that like they had beaten St. Joe 76-72 and they beat Fort Wayne 67-66. This was 43-31. Like this was a grinder of a game. Like they kind of had to like earn it. Not that they didn't earn the other ones, but this was like Adams played really good defense. The shot wasn't maybe falling as well as they typically had in past games, and Penn just found a way to win. Caleb Kuhlman. This was my first time seeing him in person. He's the freshman standout for the Kingsmen. He actually became. He set the single season freshman scoring record Saturday night against Goshen. So he's already got that, and it's, we got 2 months left in the season?
I saw that stat as well, and I was thinking to myself, how high can this number go?
Granted, maybe not a lot of freshmen play historically. Even like Marcus Burton didn't play his freshman year at Penn, which is crazy to think about, right? Because of what Marcus Burton is now. But like, he set that record Saturday night, and like, the Adams was doing everything they could to make sure Caleb Kuhlman didn't shoot on Friday night. So he found a way. He got 5 assists. He got 6 rebounds. He had a couple steals. Like he was still very involved in the game. And they have just these players around him. Like Peyton Miyamba is playing well. Alex Hawthorne is a lethal 3-point shooter. You like a lot what you see with them. Like they are finding their footing. I talked about them I asked them about it after the game. Like that Fort Wayne tournament they went to, the Homestead tournament. They lost 4 games, all 4 games in 2 days, but it was by a combined 17 points. So they played really good teams close, just didn't win. And even though they were 4-5 after that, they felt pretty good about like, look, we can hang with anybody in the state. And so that has given them the confidence to have a great, second half of the season so far with these great wins over the likes of St. Joe and Wayne. And, their 2 losses since the new year are to Warsaw, who's a top 10 4A team, and Northridge, who's another like top 10, top 15 class 4A team. Like if you're going to have losses on the resume, those are quality losses. And they have a lot of wins now. The last, they've won 7 of 9 now, including the Goshen game Saturday night. So they're playing some of the best ball in the area overall.
And I mean, we were talking about this at the game when we were watching them. Look at their starting lineup. Look at these guys that like these names, and it's like Kuhlman, freshman, Miyamba, sophomore. Right, Hawthorne is a senior, but it's like for the most part, like a lot of these guys are younger.
Yeah, they started 2 sophomores, a freshman, and 2 seniors, Alex Hawthorne. But usually their normal starting point guard, Ben Murphy, a junior, did not play on Friday night. I don't think he played Saturday either. Don't confirm that. He didn't play Friday night. So really they usually only start 1 senior, and that being Hawthorne. So to have, 4 underclassmen in the normal starting lineup. Ethan Good is starting to come back from injury too, the senior. So like he's kind of working his way in. They've had a couple different injuries throughout the year, man. They have not been 100% really like at all one time. Like it's impressive that they are 11-7 right now, atop the NIC, the only unbeaten left in the conference at 4-0. So they're doing some great stuff. We'll talk some more next upcoming NIC games after we get through the last, this past week's games.
Of course,
I determined a tie-breaking scenario that was a lot on Sunday. So
there we go. Oh, I want to hear about that. But so Penn obviously right now they're at top of the NIC at 4-0. Having the exact really conference run there they would have hoped for. Yeah. Especially with this team where I think we talked about it's maybe coming into this year it's like okay get some guys some minutes, some younger guys. Maybe it's not the year. It looks like the year.
I know he's only a freshman, but Caleb Kuhlman's going to be getting some Division I interest probably in 2 years when he's a junior and a senior.
At this pace, of course.
He will definitely be one of those guys we were talking about. You're going to be nauseous of hearing us talk about these guys for 4 years. So
he's going to be one of those names we're gonna keep in mind.
He's definitely shown that he's not just the coach's son.
Yes,
he's a legitimate player. He's He's probably a top 15, 20 player in the area. I mean, probably higher than that, but in general, like a top 10, 15 player in the area
right now.
If you're going to make a team, right? If you're going to power.
Oh
rank
yeah, if you're going to do like all.
I will not do that right now, but maybe I'll power rank them later next week. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good article.
It's not a tease. I have no idea. I legitimately have no idea.
There we go. All right. So where do you want to go next, Austin?
Let's go to Riley. I know the game on Friday against New Prairie, it wasn't much. They kind of blew out New Prairie, but I want to talk about Riley getting a win over Northridge Saturday night at home. Northridge is 13-3. Riley is now 13-3. Riley's 3 losses are Warren Central, which is a very solid 4A team from Indy, St. Joe, which they lost by 1, and then they played Fishers when they had some guys unavailable after the little kerfuffle with Adams. I don't want to call it a fight. It wasn't a fight really, but everyone saw the video. We know what happened. They didn't have their top guys, and they had to go play number 1 Fishers. It was already going to be a loss probably anyway, but like they're not 60 points worse than Fishers, what that game ended up being. So Riley picks up 2 back-to-back, really, our New Prairie's a good conference win. New Prairie's struggling, but a really good Northridge team came in there and they beat them, had a kind of a little rally in the second half to take care of the Raiders. And, Tyrese Jones coming in from Clay, with the closing of Clay, he has been sensational. He got to 1,000 career points in the New Prairie game. Marvin Schindler, I was standing next to the Riley principal last week in their Marion game, and he said the basketball, the people in the area should be thankful that Marvin Schindler never got to 6 foot tall because he's already pretty good, and if he was 6 foot, my God, he'd be even incredible, even more incredible. He probably is getting held back a little bit on the college front just because he's 5'9" and not 6 foot, but he's fantastic. He is and you've seen him play.
Yes,
he's a spark plug guy. He gets everyone going. He's emotional to a fault, maybe sometimes. But
he's just that dog.
He's that swag.
That heart and soul of a team type of player.
It's very Hannah Hidalgo-esque in that. When he goes, they go. How he goes, they go. The energy he brings. It's not just he's their best player. He is that leader, that emotional leader on the court. Gets everyone fired up. He's not afraid to talk a little trash. It's like I said, it's good. It's good sometimes. Other times maybe it gets a little over top, but
exactly.
It's very entertaining. He's a very entertaining player to cover. I'll say
yeah,
give him
it's
that
so
much.
fun.
He's a very fun player to watch. So I like what Riley's doing, man. They lost to St. Joe, but they're only got 1 loss in the conference, so they're kind of hanging around this thing, and they control their own destiny for at least a share of it if they win out, including a victory with Penn potentially down the road. But this is a very talented team, and a very all of a sudden this sectional that they're in is looking really solid. Them, Penn, Michigan City, LaPorte, it's way away. Boys are way away. We're a month away.
Still got a little bit of time.
But I couldn't help but sneak a little peek at the sectional, and I was like, dang, there's some 4 or 5 good teams in this thing. This is going to be a fun. And it's at Michigan City, which is it's kind of far from South Bend, whatever. But it's a big gym. It's one of the biggest gyms in the state, so it's going to be kind of a cool atmosphere, I think. And it's just they're playing really well right now, and they definitely have sectional championship ability, no doubt. And they have a lot of talent, and so I kind of like what Riley's been doing. The last couple weeks, coming back from that Adams kind of issue, taking care of Marion, beating Northridge. They seem to be on the right track.
Yeah, and even speaking of Tyrese Jones, that was kind of the guy last year when we were watching Clay games. I was like, okay, where's this kid going to go? Because you could see the talent just kind of coming out of that player. He is really one of the, just super talented. So to pick him up this season, I think it's just been so huge for Riley. And you're right about Schindler. It's just...
I was intrigued to see how they were going to balance that with Jones and Schindler.
Yeah, that was...
But they've handled it pretty well. Tyrese Jones just seems everything I've talking with Alex Daniel and the head coach, he's kind of fit in, not just on the court, but culturally, with them. He's a good person, no issues in the locker room with him. And it's been very
good team.
Smooth. Yes. Team guy, smooth sailing. And he's also just awesome. He almost single-handedly beat St. Joe for them, last month. So it's impressive what he's been able to do at Riley. And they're fun, man. You blink and you miss, a couple buckets.
Exactly.
It's them and St. Joe. We could talk about St. Joe, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably
transition to St. Joe. Another game where on Friday night they took care of business against Elkhart. And that's good. Kudos to them because Elkhart, has been feisty. I think I called them scrappy when we were talking about them the other night. But St. Joe just got out to that huge start and they never stopped. And this is a team I talked about last week. They could win the 3A state title. There's no doubt in my mind. They are that good. It's good to see them kind of take care of business. I'm sure they were like a little happy. Look, Elkhart is still fine. Like they're okay, but like St. Joe had a stretch there where they played, Penn, Northwood, Riley. Like they were playing some big heavy hitters. Like they were probably like, okay, cool. We get like a couple days off, and then maybe a slightly easier NIC game. Like okay, like thank God, like we can take a breath. So and look, they've got they got Adams on Thursday, so they got a chance to get another big win. It's the next, their next big game is Marion, obviously, Valentine's Day night. So that will be fascinating to watch. But it's just like they're kind of in like this mode now where they get to take a little bit of break. They are playing obviously Thursday, but I don't think they have any other non-conference games in there unless I missed one. But they're in kind of cruise control right now. But Marion will be a nice wake up, test.
And I mean,
that game always means a lot.
And speaking of a break, I mean, like you saw those highlights. Every single highlight I think I got from that game was a fast break point.
Yes, no, they don't stop. Like when they get going, they don't stop.
And that's the thing with them is their roster is so deep with playmakers and shot makers and creators that obviously Knesny, he'll have a couple, and then Shrewsbury's nailing a 3 or so. It's just there's so many players on that team that are just so talented that when you get into a fast break situation and it's a 2-on-1,
it's like it's usually a guarantee no matter what.
There's no right answer.
There's a more guarantee even with St. Joe. That's how good they are.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like
they're just playing out of their I know they lost to Penn. I get it. I know they lost.
Yes.
I'm going to say this every week probably until we get blue in the face. But like. I think they're still the best team in the area. To me, like they just have the most potential, the highest ceiling, to really make noise and make a run and bring home a state championship. For the boys, I can't remember off the top of my head the last time a boys basketball team from this area. I mean Northwood, I guess Northwood, but the county, like St. Joe County, I don't think it's happened since Clay in '94. Off the top of my head, I mean Penn got really close. With Burton, they got to the Final Four of that year, lost to Flory Badunga and Kokomo. The two Mr. Indiana basketballs in 23 and 24 on the same court together. It was kind of crazy. Yeah. One of them was 7 foot tall, the other one's 5'9". So that's kind of like probably what determined it. Like
that's the best part about that. It's the opposite ends of the spectrum.
It's the beautiful thing about basketball, man.
I love basketball.
You can have people like our height playing it, and you can have people like Flory Badunga playing it.
But the people our height playing it look a little more athletic than us.
Yes. Marcus Burton is a better athlete than me. Let's just get that. Let's get that out of the way. Hand up. I'm not super athletic. I go to Planet Fitness now. Okay, we're trying.
There we go.
We're trying. Cutting season. So it's just St. Joe's is just gotta kind of take care of business this week with Adams, and then it's always a big one. Doesn't matter what you can throw the records out, right? We'll
really
talk more
is.
on that game next week, but yes, and then speaking of Marion, wow, they put a hurting on Washington on Friday night. That was a surprising score in the terms of the margin.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Just that game when I saw that final score, I was like, I know Washington has some talent on their team, but I just did not expect.
What's crazy though is like so Washington gets ran out the building basically against Marion on Friday night. They turned around on Saturday and beat Crown Point, who was number 2 in 4A, and they were undefeated. Like, how? Like, he's like, what a perplexing 24 hours. Like, to me, Washington is always they have kind of been, I don't want to say the hardest team to figure out this year, but like. They're 2 of their 3 losses, they're in conference. They lost to St. Joe by 43, and they lost to Marion by I forgot, it was 20, 25 points. Like, it was bad. It was a beatdown.
It was 66-51, but Marion was controlling that game.
Right, it was 41-18 at the half. Like, it was, and so you're like, okay, Washington, the 2 big games they've played in the area, they've gotten their kind of behinds kicked, for lack of a better term. Like, are they legit? Are they good? Are they not? I couldn't tell. And then they beat Crown Point. And
Crown Point's a huge win.
What is going on? Like, Crown Point beat Penn by 20 early in the season. I know Penn was young. Like, they're young and they were figuring out their whole team. But like, that was like just shocking to see that on Saturday night. And kudos to them for rallying the troops. Like you could have easily, been down and maybe it helped that they had a game the next day, right? You kind of just
get it out of your head.
Right. You get it out of your head. You flush the Friday night game out. Yes, it affects the conference, but like, I don't know. It's impressive. It was impressive to see him come back. I mean, it really was. Like, credit Ryan Varga, whatever he said. Get the guys ready to go, and Stephen Reynolds III obviously has all the talent in the world, and he will play wherever he wants to, basically, in Major Division I basketball. DeCorey Parker as the point guard, a sophomore. He's a really skilled guy. I know they have some other nice pieces, but those are like the two guys that drive the engine for this team. And so, they're sitting here now at 11-3 or 12-3, 12-3, and it's like, okay, like, are they good? Like, I guess I'm still trying to work through it. Like, they got the nice win on Saturday, but you just you see what happens against Marion and St. Joe, and you pause and those are, now granted, those are future sectional opponents. Yeah. I know there are some coaches in the area that do a little gamesmanship with that, where if they're playing a future sectional foe, maybe they don't show all of their cards, in the regular season. I know it's a conference game too, so you want to win and you want to win the conference, but at the end of the day, winning the sectional is everything. It means more, right? And,
of course.
And so maybe if it's, when you get down 15 early, maybe maybe the coach pulls them back a little bit. Like, hey guys, it's just not our night. Maybe we got to save ourselves for when we see these guys in March potentially, because they know that sectional is Washington, Marion, and St. Joe. There's a good chance. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to either beat one or two of those teams to win the sectional.
You're not gonna avoid those teams in that section.
Right, you're gonna play at least one of them. Yeah. Usually, unless you just lose to Plymouth or get up.
Exactly. But if you want to win that sectional, you have to beat one or both of them. You're right.
Right. So there is maybe some of that going on, but it doesn't help us, these talking heads, that come out here and we got all these takes we want to get off, and then you beat Crown Point the next night and you're confused.
Well, that's the thing is looking just kind of at the results of for the NIC teams in the past week or so. Mm-hmm. That Crown Point win is that's probably the most impressive win, right? That's probably in the past week or so for any team.
Sure.
Yeah, most impressive win.
Oh, for sure.
But then also but then you lose by double digits. It's just so confusing. And I get what you mean by not wanting to give all that stuff away. I think that's more. It has to be more of a thing in football, I'd imagine, where you could just playbook.
But basketball, maybe you've got a 2-3 zone or something you want to throw.
That's
at
a
them
good point. That's a good
for it. And you can get up 10-0 on that, and that's how you win a game. If you don't, you throw something that your opponent isn't expecting early or in the middle of the game, and you go an 8-0 spurt, and that could win a sectional game in the long run, Mm-hmm. So I teased it at the beginning about the NIC tiebreaker thing. I figured this out yesterday. I tweeted it out too, so if you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen this. We could get a 5-way tie at 5-2 for everybody still in the NIC. So here we go. You ready? Here's how we get to the 5-way tie. So currently as it stands, Penn is 4-0.
Yes.
St. Joe, Marion, and Riley are 3-1. Washington is 1-2. They've only played 3 instead of 4 conference games.
Yep.
So Washington has to win out, obviously, to get to 5-2. That would include wins over Riley and Penn.
Okay.
So
that gives Penn a loss. That gives Riley to 2 losses.
Penn loses to Washington and Riley.
Okay.
Marion loses to Penn. St. Joe loses to Marion. Riley loses to Washington because, again, Washington wins out. And then, so that way, Penn beats Marion, St. Joe beats Adams and New Prairie, Marion beats St. Joe and Adams. So that would give everyone 5-2 in the conference. Those top 5, at least.
Now, first of all, a lot of those results, it would be surprising. Some of them are surprising, but there's not out of the question.
It's not Penn losing to Washington and Riley is not crazy.
We just talked about how Washington beat Crown Point.
St. Joe losing to Marion is not crazy.
A rivalry game, anything could happen. Marion just beat Washington.
Marion losing to Penn is not crazy.
No, I think,
Riley losing to Washington is not crazy. That's Thursday night, by the way, Riley, Washington. Mm-hmm. You got Riley, Washington, St. Joe, Adams, Penn and Marion, and the New Prairie Elkhart as the NIC games this Thursday night.
Pretty good.
That's a great slate. That's a great slate. Those first 3 games all have implications. Obviously, the South Bend round robin stuff, but Penn and Marion are battling for the conference leads, and obviously the other ones are too. So, but none of this is crazy. It's not
It's not we need some wild upset.
Yeah, you need New Prairie to win 3 games. No, it's not it's kind of contingent on the teams kind of taking care of business against Elkhart and New Prairie.
Yeah.
And Adams as well. Those are the bottom 3 of the conference currently. It just is what it is. I'm not picking on anybody. Like, it's just that happens to be the bottom 3 right now. And like,
so do you know?
There's a chance that all 5 could go 5-2. And the NIC did introduce tiebreakers.
I was about to ask. So I was gonna ask, like, do you know what the tiebreakers? Like,
I do not know what the basketball tiebreaker is.
Like, that's like 5-way ties. I mean,
head to head would be out the door because everyone would.
Yeah, like at that point,
I'm guessing point differential in conference would maybe determine it.
Has to be. You have to do something.
So in girls soccer this year, Penn, Marion, and St. Joe all tied in girls soccer. So Penn beat St. Joe. Marion beat Penn beat St. Joe beat Marion, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of like all like a.
So the NIC used to not have tiebreakers when there were 12 schools. So in the past, that would have been a 3-way tie for first. Well, I guess they have introduced tiebreakers in sports. So technically, Penn won the conference in girls soccer because of goal differential in the games. Like the Marion, St. Joe, and Marion Penn both were like 1-0 or like overtime games, and Penn beat St. Joe 3-0. So Penn won the conference because of the goal differential. The Marion AD actually cost his school a share of the soccer conference title by introducing this tiebreaker rule.
Oh, jeez.
So it was just kind of funny. Assistant AD, sorry, assistant AD Kyle. Not to give sorry, I don't want to lump Steve Romano into that, but Kyle did that. I'm not going to try to pronounce Kyle's last name; it's way too hard. I like Kyle, but yeah, it was very convoluted, and so I don't even know what all 5 and 5. I'm guessing point differential in conference
has
games,
to be,
which would probably give St. Joe they have plus 43 on Washington, so that's a big number.
That is a big number.
I don't think anyone's won a conference game that. I mean, Riley beat New Prairie by like.
Well, I was going to say it was 82-27 was the final,
yeah,
so that's
a big one. Penn ended up beat New Prairie by about 30. St. Joe, I feel like, has the capability to blow more people out, like,
because of the fast pace, the way they play, they put up points.
That would be so funny if like we got to February 21st and this was still in play, and you saw like one of these teams like just go crazy, like score 110 points.
That's what I mean. Like that
would be a little tough.
Look,
that's a little spirit of the game rules.
That was my whole thing is like when you get to high school sports and you start introducing goal differential, point differential, it can get bad real quick.
I don't know what the tiebreaker is. I would just assume that it is there's something with the point differential.
Just in case this does come up down the line, I just want to be on the record saying that can get a little ugly.
I just want to print the shirts that say co-NIC champs and have all 5 of them on the shit. I'm just envisioning like getting that shirt made.
I think you have to put all the logos on the front and then the names on the back.
Yes. The rosters. It's gonna look like a wrestling sectional shirt with all the names and rosters on it. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. NIC is the NIC has those 5 are all talented teams. They could all win a sectional. St. Joe could really make a run. Obviously, I've talked about that in 3. Like St. Joe, Marion, Washington is going to be an incredible sectional when we get there. Penn and Riley being in the same sectional is going to be incredible when we get there. It's fantastic and it's fun. It's kind of fun to just throw that out there, like, oh, hey, by the way, this could happen. Like,
yeah,
and all their overall records are great too. I know Penn's only 11-7 right now, but they
kind of went through their losses, like
right. So and like St. Joe is 13-3, and Riley is 13-3, and Washington's 12-3, and Marion is like 11-6, 12-6, whatever. Like, there's some really dang good basketball teams in that conference right now, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
No, 100%. I mean, that's the fun thing discussing it is like. Feels like anybody could beat anybody in that group. That's why that theory is working, is because
it's not I wasn't trying to it wasn't having some crazy thing happen. Like, that is all very realistic results.
Yeah,
that could happen here, and we can go 5-2 amongst everybody.
Oh, that'd be fun to figure out.
So much fun. That'd be so much fun.
All right, do you want to head over to where do you want to go
now? Let's talk little NLC, just quickly, boys basketball, because we had the big one with Warsaw and Northwood Friday night.
Of course.
And I wasn't surprised that Warsaw won, because it's just. When it's typically, and historically speaking, when it's a good 4A team versus a good 3A team, the good 4A team wins.
Yep.
So, like, that wasn't a shock. And, Northwood has lost a couple games here now recently. Like, they lost to St. Joe. They lost to Warsaw. Northwood, I think, is still in a good spot overall. Like, I'm not concerned about them, per se. They are still a big favorite in their sectional. And then you could get to a one-game regional, and anything could happen, right? And if you draw St. Joe or Washington or Marion, whatever, like, that's not out of the realm of possibility that Northwood could win that game. So I think they're fine. Warsaw is fascinating. They are playing some really good basketball. They are the team that has played Fishers the closest. We talked about that last week, but like Yeah, like they're playing really good basketball, and they're, they seem to be on the rise, and they're in that sectional with Northridge, who, Northridge has played, again, they started 9-0, 10-0. They've lost like 3 of their last 4 or 5. And, I think Northridge is still a good team. Northridge had Warsaw beat, and then Warsaw came back and won that game a couple weeks ago. So the NLC is basically settled. Like Warsaw is going to win it, barring some crazy upset. Like they're going to be the conference champs. But I'm not too concerned about Northwood and Northridge. I'm like a little more concerned on them than Northwood, but like it's not like I think Northridge could beat Warsaw. That wouldn't be the end of the world in the sectional, but I don't know. Warsaw's is playing really good basketball, man. They could be sneaky, like in how their football team did it.
Yeah.
Well, that good football vibes.
Exactly, and they have a 10-game winning streak right now. Also, that game was at Warsaw, correct? And we we talked about Warsaw. Den. Exactly, talked about Warsaw's gym just kind of being
Northside Gym is a little more forgiving, I think, to Elkhart County than Tiger Den.
Yes, but I was just saying So it's basically like that was a thing with it as well. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's just kind of looking at that. Looking at Warsaw right now, it just seems like 10-game winning streak at this point in the season. You can't play better basketball than that.
Yeah. Any other boys basketball notes you got?
Any other boy? Honestly, not. Most of my thoughts for the NIC.
I know because it's NIC. Obviously, it's all the St. Joe, like mostly St. Joe County teams. Elkhart and New Prairie technically not,
exactly.
But like New Prairie's right. I mean, half the kids are from St. Joe County. They go to New Prairie. So. Yeah, it's the big conference. It's the conference race that's really the most exciting to me. And there's some Michigan teams doing all right. Edwardsburg had a nice week.
The only Michigan team I want to bring up is Berrien Springs.
Yeah, this is more your alley. JJ Frakes, he didn't play this game.
So
right?
that was the thing I wanted to say is Berrien Springs, they beat Buchanan in this game. Yeah. They looked pretty solid. I mean, from these highlights, from our Sabrina was out there. She said they looked good. But JJ Frakes did not play. I'm not sure why. There's no reason given right now, but. They have a pretty solid record. This is a good win, and they got it without their by far best player. So if he I don't know what's going on with him, but if he comes back and starts playing again, and they already have a solid team around him, I don't know. Berrien Springs become one of those teams that you kind of have to watch out for a little run in Michigan.
It doesn't feel like there's a super dominant boys basketball team in Southwest Michigan right now. I mean, Denton Harbor is always in the mix, right? And Brandywine, we talked about them last week. They're kind of rebuilding after that, state championship run. And, it's just kind of interesting. Edwardsburg, shows these flashes of being great. Brody Shimpa is a great player for them. Niles kind of shows these flashes of being great. And you're like, okay, but they're 9-7. Edwardsburg is 10-5. All these teams have these, really nice moments. And then they have these games where you're like, what happened here? Why did they, I don't know. Edwardsburg had a great week. They beat Brandywine by 30, and they beat Three Rivers by 40. And it was like, okay, maybe we'll get on the Eddie's bandwagon here again. And then they'll lose to I don't know, some random team, and you're like, how did this happen?
It's the consistency. I think because I think we got a little spoiled last year with how good Brandywine was.
Yeah.
And also Benton Harbor. I think that's the one that everyone forgets about. Is how
that game at Brandywine is an all-timer.
All-timer.
Thank God they broadcasted that game live.
Exactly, because
not 46 anymore.
I had to leave because I get to other games, and I'm just getting updates wait, there's no way they're coming back.
Yeah.
But I think people, Brandywine obviously had the magical season, but people forget how good that Benton Harbor team was.
They made a pretty good run in the Division II playoffs.
Exactly.
Right? So,
and I mean, just the talent on that floor that night. So I think you're right. We maybe got a little spoiled with that type of.
It feels like it's just a step or two behind. And historically speaking, it's always kind of a step or two behind Indiana in general. But it feels like there's even more of a gap this year as far as the really good teams. Brandywine last year could have easily won whatever. They probably would have been in Class 2A or 1A. If they were in 1A or 2A boys last year, they could have easily made won the sectional, maybe even won a regional game. Usually it's harder for those Michigan teams that come down in Indiana and win, but they were really darn good last year. They could have easily been a semi-state 2A team. Would they won state in Indiana? I don't know, but that team was so solid with all those seniors, and they played for their entire lives, and that goes a long way when you go making these tournament runs. So, So it's just different, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just
exactly.
Yeah.
But I will say that the Berrien Springs, if Frakes comes back and plays, because
they have the most upside. You get a superstar like that, you got a chance.
I mean, that's like pure talent wise.
You're gonna have the best player on the court.
Like that's against almost everybody. That's the type of guy that he is. So
especially when you get, I don't know what division they're in, but when you get into that, playoffs, like. Chances are you're not going to be playing those bigger schools, right? So when
you got an Oregon guy on your team,
it's a good chance to win. So
yeah, pretty good.
All right, do you want to do girls basketball?
Little girls basketball action.
Let's quickly run through these again, just a little bit. We'll do quickly 4A and So obviously we talked about this last week. It's Washington, it's Penn. It's officially 21-1 versus 19-5. And Adams, the rest of the bracket, Riley's got 14 wins. I'm happy for them. They're having a nice season, but they historically, it's just this is Washington and Penn. It's Washington and Penn. We were talking about giving dark horse picks.
I just don't see it. The top half of that sectional, Riley's got 14. Mishawaka has 2, and LaPorte has 0 wins. And then Michigan City, I believe, is at 6 wins, and Adams is at 6 wins. So, and then Washington and Penn are 2 of the best teams in the state.
They literally number 4 and number 18 in the final coaches poll. The one class, the Basketball Coaches Association puts together their top 20 in the state, regardless of class.
Yep.
And Washington was 4th, and Penn was, I believe, 18th or 17th.
But so 2
of the top 20 teams in the state,
regardless of class.
And
these are heavyweights right here.
Yeah, it's just I've exhausted all my energy on this. I lean Washington just because this means more. Not that it doesn't mean more for Penn. It means a lot for Penn, but this is it for Washington.
Yeah, if they don't do it this season, it's like a senior.
They in theory they will take a step back next year.
Because
it's not just those. It's not just the big 3, but they have 6, 7 total seniors on this roster. This is a senior-led team.
Yep.
So in theory, they will be a little less experienced next year. Penn has their future ahead of them with a lot of freshmen, sophomores, juniors. Jessa Troy is a key senior for them, but the arrow is pointing up on the overall trajectory for Penn, where Washington, it's kind of like a
this could be a peak.
This is it.
This should be the peak.
Yeah, so that's why my gut just says Washington, but I can't count out Chrissy Ulrich, state champion coach, right? Putting together a plan to stifle them somehow and win. So my favorite is Washington. My dark horse pick is Penn. So
we're gonna get an answer to that one pretty quickly.
Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern at LaPorte High School. You know who's gonna be there?
Exactly.
This guy right here. Can't miss that one. So it's gonna be a great game. The first game was awesome. Felt like Penn had no business being in it at the end. So they somehow just willed their way. They kind of put the pressure on and got some good buckets, and all of a sudden there was a 3-point game. You're like, is Penn gonna win this game? This is crazy. Penn, other than the year that Washington had, they were studs. So the year their first year in 4A with Amaya Reynolds as a senior.
Yeah, that's
Rashawn. Every game between Washington and Penn the last 4 or 5 years has been close, except that one in 2021-2 when they were just miles ahead of. Or 22-3, when they were just miles ahead of kind of everybody in the state. They would have won state if Amaya Reynolds didn't get injured. Other than that year, this has been a pretty competitive game just because you have 2 really good coaches and 2 very talented teams. And Ulrich gets her girls up to play this game because this has been the conference championship game basically the last however many years. And so, this is it's a great game. We can argue it should be on Saturday night, but it is going to be a great game regardless, and I hope people go and watch it because it's going to be fun.
Yep. All right, want to stay in Class 4A?
Yeah, let's do it. So obviously this is another 2-horse race, right? Warsaw, Northridge. It's at Warsaw, which gives the Tigers an advantage. They beat Northridge at Northridge in January, so. There's not really a dark horse. I mean, Elkhart has played a rigorous schedule, so they are battle tested. I think they will beat Concord on Tuesday. It would be pretty surprising if they beat Warsaw on Friday night. And same thing with Goshen over Northridge. So this is I lean Warsaw. I love don't hate me, Doug Springer. I love you, but like I lean Warsaw just because of that regular season win and at home and. But again, just like Christy Ulrich, like I can't count out Doug Springer. Like I can't count him out. So Northridge 2-time defending sectional champ. That has to be worth something, you know. Warsaw has not won this sectional in that time because they were in the same sectional with Northridge here the last couple of years. So, you know, experience in a championship game, Northridge has it, Warsaw doesn't. So maybe that helps. But I lean Warsaw overall just on their talent, and Northridge just will hang around. I don't envision a blowout. That'll be the best championship game in the area Saturday night, regardless of how these other brackets shake out. So
yeah, we got the 2 right teams in the championship, and I'll just say that when I suggested to Austin before the show we do a dark horse and a favorite, I knew these 2 brackets were not really why I was suggesting it. Yes. There seemed to be 2 clear teams in both of these brackets.
Yes.
Northridge and Warsaw.
4A is a lot more straightforward than some of these other classes.
Exactly. So yeah, I agree with you. I'll give the edge to Warsaw as well just because of that home floor, but you're right. Just kind of Warsaw, Northridge. What do you...
Yeah.
It's those 2.
Yes.
All right. Want to go to Class 3A?
Yeah, let's do it. Sectional 19. This is a fun one. We talked about this last week, fun one, but the favorite is Culver Academy. They have played really well all season. I believe they're 17-5 going into the tournament now. They lost to Marquette Catholic, actually, on Thursday night. So if you want to bolster Marquette Catholic in 1A even more, there you go. So Culver Academy is the favorite. The dark horse for me, I think, is Plymouth. I like Plymouth. You know, the computers maybe don't love Plymouth as much as I do. I don't know if I'm blinded by, just the Pilgrims. I don't know what it is, but I kind of like their chance. Like Glenn has been kind of trending, not down per se, but not up in the last month. You know, they've kind of like, I don't know. And Plymouth is a solid team, and whoever wins that game has a really good chance to win Friday night against Marion, who's in rebuilding mode. So, like, I kind of lean Plymouth as, like, my dark horse pick. St. Joe also in that dark horse mix. So
I wanted to ask you about St. Joe specifically.
They get the bye. They're at home.
And they've been pretty solid. I mean, you know, they've been, again, being the NIC, they've been battle tested, played some really good teams.
Right. Their record in the last couple of weeks has been tough because they had to play Washington, Penn, Elkhart all in a row, basically.
Well, that's what looking at these teams going through their record, I'm looking at it and going, well, yeah, like it's been tough, but look at who they played.
Yeah, they did have a couple big games recently. So they are battle tested. Culver Academy plays a good schedule, though, too. Like, it's not like they're... And look, St. Joe beat Culver Academy earlier this year. So, yeah, to me, though, with how the bracket shook out, I kind of lean Plymouth as, like, the dark horse pick here. Wow. So that's just my, that's why that's my opinion. Yeah. And Plymouth, I believe, the last time they won the sectional was 2019. They were in 4A actually that year, and they won at Northridge. It was a crazy weather forced the sectional into a 3 games in 4 days setup where they played the first round Friday, the semifinals Saturday, and the championship Monday. And Plymouth won all 3 of those games by like a combined 6 points, and 2 of them on like buzzer beaters. It was an insane like 72 hours, for them. And they won at Northridge, and like Northridge had this amazing team with I believe Morgan Litweiler was their star player that year, and it was like this insane run. So I'm not saying Plymouth is going to go on an insane run like that because. Unless weather, unless it snows tomorrow, which I don't think it is.
I don't think so, guy.
I don't think so.
Let's bring Andrew Whitmire up here.
It's supposed to be 53 degrees tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that.
I don't think it can snow, though.
I might play golf before basketball. But yeah, I don't know. I got my eye on Plymouth. There.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if they'll win, but they could get to the final for sure.
Exactly, and just for reference for South Bend, St. Joe, they have lost 3 straight. They've lost 4 of the past 5, but included in that, you mentioned Elkhart, Penn, and South Bend, Washington.
Yeah.
All of those.
Was the other loss in there as well?
The other loss was Andrean.
Andrean's a solid, 2A program as well. So
I mean, if you just look, 6 of their last 7 games, all against 4A teams. It's a 3A school, it's definitely been a tough schedule. They had Marquette Catholic on the schedule as well. So it's like they've played some really good teams. So I think sometimes when it gets down to this time of year, it's like, okay, they know they've been in spots where they've been down before, and now they're playing against their level of competition on their home floor.
Yes. Okay, let's go to sectional 20.
There we go.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up this because I want to sound smart. Hold on a second. Okay, so the favorite is Columbia City. They have we talked about her Miss Indiana All-Star candidate and Addison Baxter. I don't think she'll win Miss Basketball, but she's definitely in the mix to be an Indiana Senior All-Star, which is a great honor, obviously. I'm gonna go dark horse Tippecanoe Valley. Okay. So they're 12-10.
Okay.
But they've won 3 in a row. They've won 5 of the last 7 overall. So like they've, they're playing good ball at the end here. They kind of went through their growing pains early, but they have kind of, righted the ship a little bit, right? Their only 2 losses in that stretch of the last, couple of weeks was to a really good Fort Wayne Northrop team, a 4A team who's 15-7, and Warsaw, another great 4A team.
Both those games on the road too.
On the road, right? So, they've picked up some nice wins here. They've battled hard against, some decent teams, and so they're playing their best ball. That's what you want to be doing right now, right? You want to be playing your best ball. So if you're looking at the bracket just purely from the bracket standpoint, Tippy Valley, I think, is my dark horse pick. I mean, Northwood is the second best team. If they beat Columbia City, they immediately become the favorite, obviously, to win this. I just don't know if they can beat Columbia City. It's going to be a fun game Tuesday night, and so yeah, I kind of lean in Tippy as the dark horse, but Columbia City is the favorite to win this. Yeah,
I like that pick of Tippy Valley, especially going to their past recent schedule. It's like having several wins in a row, and those only losses, like we said, on the road to really good 4A teams. I think that sets you up well at this time, and also just if you could stack a couple wins as well, get that momentum, get yourself to the championship, because that's the hard thing for Northwood. Is you're right, they're the second best team in this, but when you have to then play the favorite in the first game, it's I don't know. That's a tough ask. You can't build any first round win, semifinal win. You can't build any of that type of momentum and belief. It has to just kind of be right from the start. You have to have that, but this is also a school and girls that have had championship DNA in other sports as well. Yeah, so this feels pretty wide open, and again, you can't even sleep on the hosts, Fairfield. Like, they've had a nice year, 16-6, and they have a bye. They're at home. Like, that matters, so, but yeah, if we're going true dark horse, I like Tippy Valley. I think they're open for a run. Yeah, all right, 2A, and let's do this. So the favorite is Bremen. Just get it out there. Kyla Foster, leading scorer all time. We talked about that last week. They have a very nice path in the first round game, at least. Dark horse is kind of a tie. I'm going to say it, if I can do a tie, between LaVille and Winnemac. LaVille, only because they're playing Bremen for the third time. Like, it would be the third matchup of them this year. And we talked about that last week a little bit, too. Like, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I mean, and then we saw, and you look at those games. Right, the second game was much closer. Way closer. It was like 5-point game, whereas the first one was a 16-point game. Right. Winnemac, I don't really 26. Know. 26. No, bad enough. It was a lot. It was 20, 26. It was 20 plus, and then the rematch was 5. Yes. So, and Winnemac, I just don't know a ton about them, other than, they went, 15-7 on the season. So, that's a nice record. I don't know who they've played. I don't know who's in their conference. I should have... Winnemac is 14-9. LaVille is 15-7. The other 3 teams are kind of just there. No offense to Knox, the hosts, but they're kind of going through it. Jimtown won 2 games this past week. They were 1-19. Now they're 3-19. So there you go. Okay, cool. Build some momentum, maybe. But one of those wins was Career Academy on the other half. So in Career Academy is kind of going through it. So yeah, I just. I like Bremen a lot. I talked about last week, my obsession apparently of Bremen. Maybe it's just Marshall County. I was picking Plymouth too. Yeah, there you go. I just love Marshall County. Just love going out there. It's my, I get the mileage money. It's great. There you go. That's a good point. Yeah. It's Bremen's right down, it's basically right down the road from my apartment, but it's 20 miles, so it's awesome mileage money. Great. Yeah. So I love this Bremen team. I think they're really good. I would be kind of shocked if they lost to the sectional, personally. But LaVille could get them. Again, rivalry, third time, that's hard to do. And Winnemac is solid as well. So, it's not, out of the realm of possibility, but if we're handicapping this, I would say Bremen has, an 85 to 90% chance of winning the sectional, in my opinion. I know John Harrell puts out those percentages too, but I think it's more closer to 85, 90%. Yeah, I would agree with you on Bremen. We talked about it last week, where it felt like last year was a year too early, and this year might even be a year too early as well. Yeah. But when you have that kind of run 2 years too early, let's just say, they know how to win in these types of games.
Yeah.
They understand that, like, okay, like win or go home time. And I think that sometimes like younger teams struggle with that, where it has to be giving everything you have every single night, because there's no guarantee even against teams you should beat. I think they've already learned that lesson. So that's why you're right. Usually the third time you play a team like Lavelle, you got to worry about that. It's hard to beat a good team 3 times. But if you are, it's because you have a group like Bremen who has been through a run, who understands how important each one of these matchups are at this time of the year, how the game kind of changes and gets a little bit more intense. That's why it's just so hard to see Bremen losing. Yeah, and one other note, it's really hard to make Indiana All-Star, especially this year. Like, this seniors class is insane. If Bremen makes a real run at this and gets the state finals, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Kyla Foster could make the team. I mean, it would be a lot. It would be a lot. She'd have to have this amazing run. She'd have to put, She's going to have the career totals. Like, she's already at 1,400 career points, and obviously, even just from this area alone, you have 3 South Bend Washington seniors who have great cases. Even Jessa Troy, Warsaw, Northridge have girls that you could make arguments for. And obviously that's just our area. Like, you can go the whole state. So it would be a lot. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if Bremen makes it a Gainbridge Fieldhouse and she's averaging 20, 25 in this postseason, and she kind of gets the spotlight that, you kind of need sometimes to be an Indiana All-Star. Like, I'm not ruling it out. Especially the spotlight, too, of like, second year in a row they're making a run. Right. That always helps kind of get the spotlight. The team it's much as it is individual, it is team. There is some team element of that as well. You have to have a great team. Well, the best players usually win. Yeah. Best player on the best team. Yeah. That argument will be fun. It could be fun. Exactly. Who you think the best team is. So. All right, where do you want to go next? I guess we'll do, I don't know if it's in our queue here, but the Marquette Catholic sectional 49, I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Look at that. It's hiding down there. Yeah. Oh, you know what? There's a space in between, 2 spaces in between the 4, or class and the 1. That's why it was throwing me off. Oh, it's not in order. This is a fun one, man. Marquette's number 1. They got my Nishby Culver Academies. They are the favorite. They're the favorite to win 1A. But Westville, that's dark horse, I guess. But you're 21-2. Like, I wrote a Mike Magazine, not to plug my own content. That story published over the last couple of days at SouthBendTribune.com. Go check it out. I thought it came together pretty well personally. Not to humbly brag about my work, but the bottom half of the bracket though, all these teams are like kind of solid. Like 6 of the 7 are at 500 or better, which is that's pretty solid. That's pretty good for a section. So like Bowman Academy is the only one. They're under 500. They're the host too. So, I saw Westville beat Morgan Township by 25. So I guess Washington Township on the bottom half is probably the dark horse pick there, the favorite maybe to get to the final. They were second in the conference with Westville and Morgan Township, and I believe Tri Township is in that conference as well. So if we're going by that metric, Washington Township, sure, but the championship game feels like it's Friday night and the first semifinal game. Like, that is going to be marquee, must-see basketball between 2 really good teams. Can Westville pull off the stunner? It was just crazy. It's number 4 versus number 1, so it's not like a massive upset, but like it would feel like a massive upset given what Marquette Catholic has done, not just last year but this year. So that's going to be a great game. That's going to be a great game Friday night. Exactly. I mean, that's kind of where it goes. It's funny when you said with Westville, like with their record, it's like that's a quote unquote dark horse, right? When they're 21-2, it's like that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous to kind of say. But when you have a team like Marquette Catholic, historically speaking, Westville is a dark horse. Like they're actually not a horse. They're never in it. Like they're never they're in the race. Yeah. but no, it's they get stuck in the loading dock or whatever. They think Sorry, I was just dumb. That was a dumb horse joke. I liked it. But yeah, I just want to say though. So they're one of their 2 losses was Marquette Catholic, right, by 24. Yeah, so exactly. It was a bad. They'll have more time and time to prepare, and Mike Megacy, potential Hall of Fame coach in the state. You give him some time to maybe concoct a game plan, right? And we'll see. I mean, I still think Marquette's going to win it, but
You can't count out Westville right now. I don't think that sentence has ever been said, but like you cannot count out Westville right now.
This is going to go down, like I think when we talked about just overall in terms of, okay, like Penn Washington, that's obviously the game that night.
Yeah.
Northridge Warsaw, if that happens, that's going to be the game Saturday night. This is
the game Friday night.
This looks like the game.
Please move to Marquette Catholic. We do not need to go all the way to Bowman Academy for this game. Come on, man.
I move it to somewhere. If Marquette was a Marquette Catholic, I would love to be there.
I would have been. I'd probably go.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I can't commit to an hour 20 to this. No offense to the region, but yeah, we needed this closer.
Yeah.
Even at Westville, I would have probably gone out there and covered it. It's a 50-minute drive, but
when it's at Bowman, that's a little rough.
It's tough. That's tough. All right, and then the last one, big one from 1A in our area. This is fun, man. This is a good sectional as far as you have the two best teams on the opposite side. So, barring some unforeseen circumstances, it should probably be Elkhart Christian versus North Judson.
Okay.
North Judson, I believe, will be the favorite if you go by the kind of the metrics and that. But I mean, Elkhart Christian's having their best season ever. So I guess by default they are the dark horse. Culver is 14-8. Oregon Davis is 12-9. So those two teams play each other in the first round. Could Culver maybe beat North Judson in the second round? That's not out of the realm of possibility. ECA got the better half of the draw, with Trinity struggling, Triton struggling, Argus. Argus is 7-15, Triton 5-15, 2-20. Trinity is 5-15. So it's a nice draw for Elkhart Christian.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. They seem like it kind of works out well for them to go on that run.
They will, in theory, have an easier way to get to the sectional final than North Judson. You hope you see that game Saturday night. That'd be a lot of fun. This sectional is at Oregon Davis, for those who don't know. So another one that's kind of a far drive out of the way. But this should be a fun, sectional. You're gonna have a competitive Oregon Davis Culver Community game on Wednesday night. You have potentially a good semifinal game with North Judson, whoever wins that game, and then ECA if they get to the final. Whoever they play on that bottom half will be a good game. So it should be a fun tournament to kind of follow. And 8 teams, you don't see that often anymore in a sectional, so it's kind of cool. But yeah, this is I guess the favorite is North Judson. I don't want to call ECA a dark horse because they're like a co-favorite. In my opinion, the dark horse would be Culver Community or Oregon Davis on their home court. Oregon Davis on their home court. We'll go with OD as the dark horse.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a couple of good wins recently. They're winning 3 straight coming into this.
Yeah.
But it's, one thing I want to say, too, off of this, because it has the 8 teams, but it just feels like, we mentioned Triton and Argus, just like not maybe having the best seasons ever, but that's a good matchup for the first round.
Yeah,
it feels like this,
game.
Like, I know we didn't go too much in, we did the blind draw talk last week, but this feels exactly. This feels like a very good seeded bracket where it's like, okay, even though Triton's not having a great season, they're up against a team kind of similar to them. It's not going to be as many theoretic.
The first round, there should be at least one competitive game per night. Like Triton and Argus will be close, I think. And then Oregon Davis Culver on the second night will be close, and then you, in theory, have a good semifinal game with North Judson in that winner. And then, a lot of times when you're putting these sectionals, and you just hope that you have at least one good game per night. And that's generally the blind draw is good at doing that. There are rarely nights where the games are like it only happens usually when there's one game and it's the lopsided matchup that you get sometimes, right? Like if Washington had been playing LaPorte on night 1, oh boy, that would have been tough. And it's the only game of the night, but it works out where it feels like there should be, there shouldn't
be every game should not be a mismatch. And this is what I'm trying to say. There should be more competitive games than there are mismatches in this sectional, and I think sometimes with the blind draws, there are times where you just get way more mismatches in a sectional than you do, and it's it feels like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about this next Monday again, man. This could be great.
Yes.
So, this should be fun. This is always one of the most entertaining weeks of the year with all this and the wrestling regionals on Saturday, which will be at Goshen and Rochester. That's the first time I've seen them go to Rochester for the wrestling regional. That's where all the St. Joe County guys are going to be, like Penn, Mishawaka, South Bend Riley, guys like that will be down at Rochester. And then we also have the New Prairie guys. They're doing really well. They're going to, I believe, Chesterton for the regional. New Prairie's got two number 1 ranked guys right now in the state in their weight classes, Jeffrey Hybart and Matt Staples, 144 and 157 respectively. Mm-hmm. So look out for them. You got to take care of business this week, get through it and get to semi-state. So the good thing is everyone goes to the same semi-state. They all go to East Chicago. Mm-hmm. Another just ridiculous long drive.
Yeah, it's one of they don't consult us with these locations.
Northside Gym, just do the Northside Gym.
Let's put everything there, man.
Yeah.
That's not too far.
Well, it's because the region has some really good wrestling team, like Crown Point is really good out there. So
I'm just saying selfishly for coverage,
right? But the mileage money.
Well, that's a good point.
Selfishly for the coverage, don't put it on the same Saturday as girls basketball.
That's another good point. Is like.
Can we do it on a Thursday? Can we do basketball on a Thursday or Friday night?
You force us to make some decisions, and I hate having to make those decisions.
What about girls basketball? What if we did the girls basketball? If we're doing a 1-game regional, what if we just did the regionals on a Friday night?
I'm not arguing. I like that idea.
I mean, it would be awesome. And you're not pulling people away from. If you're a parent, if your kid you have a son and daughter, one wrestles, one plays basketball. You're kind of stuck on that Saturday.
What are we supposed to do?
Especially because the regional games, some of them are at 1 o'clock, and that's right when the wrestling is still going on. I don't want to get.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time
to. My blood pressure trying to keep it low. Yeah, it's just some of these things like you can.
It's easily avoidable. We'll have plenty of time, I think, once we get further into the playoffs to talk about. The way the game, yeah. It was a blind draw last week. We stuck away from that for most of the podcast, but I think once we get to regional, semi-state, especially, we'll have some qualms about the scheduling.
2 games in 1 day. 2 games in 1 day.
That's what I'm kind of referring to.
Soccer's the only sport that does it well. Yeah, does it right now. So, all right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we could go on and on for that. Anything else? But I think that's
good, man.
That's good. Good with me.
I had a great weekend. Did you have a good weekend?
I had a pretty good weekend as well.
Yeah, I ended up I don't know, man. Watching the Royal Rumble on Saturday.
Me too. I watched that. Yeah, it was a good time.
WWE. People, Marcus Freeman loves WWE. Wrestling's back in.
Exactly. My first time ever seeing a wrestling WWE match. I thought it was cool.
It's very fun.
It was really fun. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and my wallet is a little heavier these days.
Mine as well.
Royal Rumble. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, enough of that.
Sorry.
You can find his work in the South Bend Tribune. You can find ours, of course, here on WNDU. We'll have plenty of coverage with sectionals this week, trying to get to as many games as possible, covering that. And then the podcast will be back early next week to discuss all the sectional results and what's going on moving forward, and and then some updates in the boys basketball conference races.
Whew, it'll be fun. This is a great week. Let's just do it, man. Let's just get it. Let's just get it going. Get me to Tuesday night. I want to see the first games, and then Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Let's do it.
Let's keep it rolling. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching.